Welcome to the BCST115 Announcing and Performance Student Showcase. I'm Mo, your first host, and I'm very pleased you could join us today. All semester long, our creative CCSF students have been working hard to build their skills, and today we're bringing you the best of the best. It's my pleasure to turn you over to the wonderful Matt Burtonthal with our news segment. Matt?
Thank you, Mo. In this next segment, we'll hear a collection of our students delivering the news. These segments were recorded live and in person in the CCSF studios. For some of these students, it was their first time setting foot on campus due to the COVID-19 pandemic. These sessions were highly collaborative as everyone pitched in to operate the camera, teleprompter, as well as the sound. We also provided each other feedback after each take as well as encouragement. Listen now as the students deliver the sometimes serious, sometimes hilarious news of the day.
Good morning, I am Gabby Leon Bowers and this is CCSF News. A Michigan's family black cat turned out to be good luck. The cat started making a racket and woke sleeping family members to a fire in the garage. According to fire officials in Ellendale, Diane Busher was awakened to hear the family's cat howling and screeching. The cat was in the smoke-filled garage. Busher grabbed the feline and got the rest of the family of 5 out to safety. Firefighters are investigating the cause. Don't offer Vicki Armstrong a penny for her thoughts. She's already got 55,000 of them. Armstrong says she'll soon take her $550 worth of pennies to Shreveport, Louisiana. She's been saving her pennies for 19 years and she said it symbolizes her frugal ways. She stashed the coins in vases, bowls, and shoeboxes. Armstrong is getting ready to retire from a hospital where she's a maternity technician. College basketball coach Ron Hunter better watch where he steps tonight. He'll be on the hard wood in bare feet. Hunter is the coach of Indiana University, Purdue, and University of Indianapolis. He says he'll be barefoot for tonight's game against Oakland University to raise awareness about shoelessness children in Africa. He's working with a charitable organization called Samaritan's Feet and hopes to send 40,000 pairs of shoes to Africa. Hunter says he got a first-hand look at the problem during a recruiting trip to Nigeria 4 years ago. Hunter adds he's already collected 30,000 pairs of shoes and filled his campus office. That is all the news for this morning. Tune in at 4 p.m. for our afternoon block. This has been Gabby Leon Bowers. Have a wonderful morning.
Good morning. I am Jessica Ye for CNN Morning News. Yesterday's stunning comeback on Wall Street has heartened investors somewhat in Asia today, but there are still lingering concerns about the health of the U.S. economy. A bellwether Hong Kong index lost value today after a seesaw ride, but stocks finished up high in Japan, South Korea, Australia, and the Philippines. In roller coaster trading Wednesday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped as much as 323 points before skyrocketing to close up nearly 300 points for the day. The single-day turnaround is the Dow's largest in more than 5 years. The American stock market bounce came a day after a major interest rate cut by the U.S. Central Bank in an effort to boost the economy. Now in legal news, jurors in Dayton, Ohio are to hear closing arguments Monday in the trial of a woman accused of killing her baby in a microwave oven. The defense called 16 witnesses, but not defendant China Arnold, before resting yesterday. Judge John Kessler dismissed the jury for the weekend. 27-year-old Arnold has pleaded not guilty to aggravated murder in the death of 3-week-old Paris Talley in August 2005. She faces a possible death sentence if convicted. The final 2 witnesses were inmates who were in the Montgomery County Jail at the same time as Arnold. They refuted testimony by prosecution witnesses who'd said they'd heard Arnold tell another inmate that she didn't mean to kill her baby. In federal legal news, a federal prosecutor says a former executive of a failed healthcare company misled investors and covered up hundreds of millions of dollars in misdirected payments. Assistant U.S. Attorney Douglas Squires is telling jurors that the two former owners and three senior executives of National Century Financial Enterprises on trial told investors one thing and did something different. The government says the defendants took part in a nearly $2 billion fraud of investors that helped bring down the company based in suburban Dublin. But one defense attorney says National Century's only goal was to help doctors' offices and hospitals stay open. In state news, Pittsburgh is offering money to bring a Paris-like atmosphere to its downtown streets. Using a $1 million grant from the nonprofit Colcom Foundation, the city will match funds spent by business owners who make improvements that add vibrancy to the area. The improvements could be anything from installing glass facades and outdoor seatings to putting awnings or flower displays outside. There will also be $3.5 million available to business owners who turn unused or underused upper floors into apartments. Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership President and CEO Mike Edwards says the goal is to create a more dynamic space in the business district. Starbucks for a buck. The coffee chain is going head-to-head with low-cost rivals by offering a cheaper cup of Joe. But don't expect a grande latte for $1. A statement from Starbucks says the low-cost Java will be a small cup of drip coffee with free refills. Test marketing will be done in Starbucks' hometown of Seattle. No word, though, on when the Buck-a-Cup test will begin or how many Starbucks coffee shops will be involved. This is Jessica Ye for CNN Morning News, wishing you some good news today and tomorrow.
Hello, I'm Faith Peterson-Bailey, and this is CCSF News. Nuclear experts in Japan say there was a nuclear plant even closer to the epicenter of last year's devastating earthquake that survived largely undamaged, while Fukushima suffered multiple nuclear meltdowns. A team from the UN's nuclear watchdog says the Onagawa plant in northern Japan was well prepared with greater safety margins. A Sikh temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, pays its respects this morning to the 6 worshippers who were gunned down and killed last Sunday by a white supremacist. Attorney General Eric Holder and Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker also plans to be there. 40-year-old Wade Michael Page killed the 6 worshippers and then was killed by police. Dole Foods has won a victory in a suit brought by nearly 3,000 Filipino workers claiming injury from pesticide exposure. A Los Angeles Superior Court judge has dismissed the case. The Ventura County Star reports the plaintiffs said they were exposed at the banana plantations more than 30 years ago. This has been the CCSF News. I'm Faith Peterson-Bailey, and have a good evening.
Good evening, Bay Area. This is KPIX5, and I am Renee Francisco. Our ongoing story today is that there was a major accident on Interstate 580, and traffic has not cleared up since the accident occurred at 5:30. Traffic towards Berkeley has been delayed by at least 60 minutes due to forced detours away from the interstate. Based on witness reports, the accident happened because a fleeing suspect lost control of his vehicle when he attempted to overtake a truck carrying a massive trailer. Debris was scattered all over the interstate, which resulted in the closure of the freeway. According to the Alameda Police Department, the suspect is currently in critical condition and the truck driver is in stable condition. Earlier today, Apple announced a competitor to the Google Glass. Named the iGlass, it provides a live feed of news, your current vitals, and privacy protection features, which is something Apple is emphasizing with the iGlass. The announced release date will be Q3 of the 2023 fiscal year. The NCAA announced its tournament seedings earlier today, and the University of San Francisco has successfully made the field of 68. They are one of 3 West Coast Conference teams to be part of the tournament, with the most prominent team being Gonzaga. Led by guards Jamari Bouye, Khalil Shabazz, and the transfer from San Diego, big man Masalski, the Don's defense and Bouye's efficient scoring has been a major factor to their 24-9 record. They have been seeded 10th by the committee and will be facing 7th-seeded Murray State this Thursday. A Florida man is on the news again today, but not for the reason you think. While he is best known by people online for his crazy antics, today he is up to something new. He used his time as a speaker today in the San Francisco Public Library to talk about life in jail, how his decisions led him there, and how he's using his newfound fame to live a better life. Currently, he is a public representative for the Miami Zoo, a job he got after spending community service at the zoo for stealing a goat from the petting zoo. This is KPIX5. I am Renee Francisco, and we will be back right after the break.
Good evening. You are watching CCSF International, and I am your host, Gina Vitanza. Nuclear experts have found that a Japanese nuclear power plant that was closer than Fukushima to the epicenter of last year's devastating earthquake was largely undamaged because it was designed with enough safety margins. A team from the UN's nuclear watchdog says the Onagawa plant in northern Japan suffered higher levels of ground shaking than Fukushima Daiichi, but was remarkably unaffected because it was well prepared. Fukushima suffered multiple meltdowns following the magnitude 9.0 quake on March 11, 2011. A resulting tsunami destroyed its cooling systems. Sujit Samadar, who led the 19-member International Atomic Energy Agency mission, says there are no signs of major damage to Onagawa's crucial safety systems. He says they hope to make similar inspections at other plants to share information and improve safety. In other news today, the UN Refugee Agency says nearly 150,000 people fleeing Syria's civil war have sought its help, a figure expected to rise significantly. Spokesman Adrian Edwards says the agency's offices in Lebanon, Turkey, Jordan, and Iraq have all reported big increases this week in the number of people who have registered as refugees or are in the process of being registered. He told reporters Friday in Geneva that in several countries, however, we know there to be substantial refugee populations who have not yet registered. Edwards says Turkey's population of Syrian refugees has reached 50,227, including more than 6,000 new arrivals this week alone, many from the besieged city of Aleppo. He says Jordan has 45,869 refugees, Lebanon 36,841, and Iraq 13,587. Next, China's July trade growth suffered an unexpectedly sharp decline in a new sign of weakness for the world economy. Customs data showed exports rose just 1% over a year earlier, down from June's 11.3% growth rate and below forecasts of about 5%. Imports rose 4.7%, down from the previous month's 6.3%. The data indicates the economy is still weak despite repeated government stimulus efforts. China's trade growth has fallen steadily this year as global demand for its exports cooled and efforts to boost domestic consumption have had only a limited impact. That concludes our news for tonight. I'm your host, Gina Vitanza, and I thank you all for tuning in.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Ertl, and this is Sports News. For the second straight year, Ohio State University alumni and students didn't snap up all the available regular season football tickets. The Columbus Dispatch reports that, compared to last year, more than 5,200 fewer alumni and nearly 2,300 fewer students applied to buy single game tickets. Alumni Association Representative John Smith blamed the pandemic, predicting a major turnaround for next season. In NFL news, Washington's rookie quarterback Robert Griffin III capped his much-anticipated NFL preseason debut with a touchdown in a 7-6 win over Buffalo. In his third and final series of the game, Griffin sparked the offense by completing 3 passes for 58 yards, including a 20-yard touchdown to Pierre Garçon. Overall, Griffin completed 4 of 6 for 70 yards, giving Washington its first preseason victory. Earlier today, a golden moment for American women's soccer. Behind the scoring of Carly Lloyd, the American women beat Japan 2-1 in the gold medal match at the London Olympic Games. Lloyd struck twice, scoring once within the first 8 minutes and again in the 54th minute. The result was especially gratifying because Japan beat the U.S. on penalty kicks in the World Cup final last year. Today's gold is the 3rd straight for the U.S. women's soccer, making it the most successful program since the sport was introduced at the 1996 Atlanta Games. That's the end of our report, but before we go, here's something from the Clueless Criminal File. It took dedicated police work to catch a burglary suspect who broke into a closed Dayton police substation and then ate an officer's chicken dinner. But they solved the case without a lot of legwork. Detectives didn't need to lift fingerprints or get DNA from the leftovers. All they had to do was check the ID cards that the suspect left behind. That's right. When officers arrived for their morning shift last week, they found a broken window, the remains of a takeout dinner, and a wallet, which contained the suspect's ID and address. Police have now taken 29-year-old Valentine Cisco into custody and charged her with burglary. I guess it's bon appetit and bon voyage. That's all for Action News at 11. Join us tomorrow at 6 a.m. for our morning wake-up call. Until then, this is Jeff Ertl wishing you a good night.
Hello everyone, I'm your host Renee Castellano with In the News Tonight. Last week in Austin, Texas, more than 27,000 mail ballots in Texas were flagged for rejection in the first test of new voting restrictions enacted across the U.S., jeopardizing votes cast by Democrats and Republicans alike, and in counties big and small, according to the analysis by the Associated Press. It puts the rate of rejected mail ballots in Texas on track to significantly surpass previous elections. The preliminary figures reported by Texas counties after votes were counted in the state's March 1 primary is the fullest picture to date of how new election rules rushed into place by Republicans following the 2020 election made it harder for thousands of voters in both parties. Some will wind up not having their ballots count at all. At least 17 other states will also vote this year under new voting laws. More recently in the news and in the image you see here, San Francisco District Attorney Chesa Boudin holds a report during a news conference in San Francisco on Tuesday, February 15th. The woman whose DNA from a sexual assault case was used by San Francisco police to arrest her in an unrelated property crime plans to sue the city. Attorney Adante Pointer said Thursday, March 10th, he filed notice of a possible federal lawsuit on the woman's behalf. Boudin said in February that the woman was identified based on DNA collected from her in a 2016 domestic violence and sexual assault case. In media around the world, New Zealand has been noting the rapid changes taking place in how people consume news and entertainment. New Zealand's government on Thursday said it would merge its public television and radio broadcasters into a single new organization it hopes will be better placed to reach younger audiences. The merger represents a major shakeup to the nation's media landscape, potentially affecting about 1,000 employees across TVNZ and RNZ. The two broadcasters have been dominant players for decades, often setting the news agenda and providing shared cultural moments. The new organization is likely to have an increased focus on growth areas like on-demand video, online news, and podcasts. It will run under a legal charter requiring it to provide trustworthy news as a core service. In fashion, Chanel took guests on a journey of discovery inside the Grand Palais Éphémère to the landscapes and colors of the Scottish countryside. On the final day of the Paris Fashion Week, the runway saw an ode to tweed, an exploration of the history and allure of the fabric, now synonymous with the Parisian stalwart. Gleaming styles evoke the colors of the actual River Tweed that flows east across the border region in Scotland and northern England, a river that gave the storied fabric its name and inspired house founder Gabrielle Coco Chanel. And before we head out, not 3 chances, not 4 chances, but more than 5 chances given to a canine has not gone in vain. This is the story of a mischievous mutt who turned out to be a very good girl. Such a good girl, in fact, that she saved a life. Ruby, an Australian Shepherd and Border Collie mix, ended up in a Rhode Island animal shelter as a pup because of persistent behavioral problems. 5 families adopted her, only for each to return her because she was too rambunctious. Shelter volunteer and dog trainer Patricia Inman repeatedly intervened to keep Ruby from being euthanized. Meanwhile, State Police Corporal Daniel O'Neill, who needed a search and rescue dog, saw something special in Ruby. After Inman vouched for her, Ruby was adopted and trained as a police canine. Fast forward 6 years later, a teenage boy got lost for 36 hours while hiking, and Ruby succeeded where a human search party failed. She found the boy, who was unconscious and in grave medical condition. He turned out to be the son of Inman, the son of the shelter volunteer dog trainer who had 6 years earlier vouched for the dog's life. The canine will be featured in a Netflix movie titled Rescued by Ruby, which chronicles the dog's life from being returned 5 times to a shelter to an 11-year veteran search and rescue canine. Well, that's all we have. Signing off, I'm Renee Castellano, and I'll see you next time in the News Tonight.
Thank you, Matt, for taking us through such informative and professional pieces from our students. Now, let's take a worldwide journey with international segments by Pepe Ramos and Joanna Luna. I can't wait to see what you both have to teach us about history and culture.
We are at the Frida Kahlo Garden.
What is this?
I've heard about leaving your heart in San Francisco, but not your head.
This mega statue is a replica of an Olmec head. The Olmecs influenced the calendars, ball games, and religions of later Mesoamerican cultures. Archaeologists have discovered 17 of these heads in Mexico. They were crafted from basalt, a form of volcanic lava. Miguel Alemán, then governor of Veracruz, gave the replica to CCSF in 2004.
At the dedication, he said, "You may lose your heart in San Francisco, but never your head."
Good evening and welcome to In Conversation by CCSF. I'm your host Joanna Choa, and I'm so happy that you're here with us in this, our first episode. Today, we're gonna talk about traveling. And as we all know, traveling is a great way to expand our horizons, get out of our comfort zone and daily routine. And someone that knows this very well is our guest today. Taryn Johnston is gonna talk about her experience of traveling. Welcome, Taryn!
Hi!
Cheating.
So nice to be here. Thank you so much.
We're so happy to have you. Thank you for being here. And
just to give space in your time to talk to us about all your experience traveling.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
All right, perfect. First, I would like to ask you how your interest in traveling started.
So when I was growing up, my grandparents actually would send me postcards from all over the world from where they were traveling. They were always world travelers because they were professors at their university. So every few months, they would send me a new postcard from a new country that they were visiting.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I was always really in awe of that. And when I was 16 years old, they took me on my first international trip to Barcelona and Venice. And it was really a magical experience for me because it was just like entering a whole new culture and different countries, and I really enjoyed it.
Wow, so pretty much traveling started with your family and started growing with the time.
Exactly.
All right, so your first big trip was Barcelona?
Yeah, my first international city that I ever visited was Barcelona.
All right, perfect. And I want to ask you about your studying abroad experience because I know all the students of CCSF will be very interested in like studying abroad or like knowing someone that already did it. So can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So I studied abroad in 2017 in Bilbao, Spain, and it's a northern city in Spain that was kind of less well known. I had actually never heard of it before I went there. So when I arrived, I was pretty shocked to know that not every Spanish city was sunny and gorgeous because it literally rained every single day for the first like 3 months. So yeah, it was an incredible experience. I absolutely would encourage everyone to look into a study abroad program because it really changed my life in so many different ways.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was about to ask you that because I feel like traveling changed people. But like I feel like even studying abroad, if you're staying in the same place for like a longer time, usually people travel 1-2 weeks, maybe a month. But like staying for like what, 6 months?
Right. I was there for a total of 7 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you totally feel like after this experience, you open your mind and like you're different as you were before.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for anyone getting so out of their comfort zone and like you said, like a daily routine, I had to completely change my way of life, and I think it really made me more conscious of my way of life here in the United States and how it was different and how there was pros and cons of a different culture.
Exactly.
Yeah, and of course, like living here is like the different pros and cons of our lifestyle. That is just a very it's hard sometimes when you're in your comfortable life to really be conscious of that. So I feel like an experience like study abroad is just like mind-blowing sometimes.
Wow, those were really cool cultural stories, Jessica. Thank you for that. Well, in this next segment, we're to tackle storytelling in what we call moth stories, which was prompted by an actual radio station which hosts the original series, The Moth Radio Hour. We thank them for the prompt. Well, please enjoy these moth stories by our very own student performers, Matthew Burtonthal, Gabby Leon Bowers, Jeff Ortel, and Johanna Ochoa Luna.
So I always thought of myself as the type of person who would get a tattoo, but eventually. I like the sense of commitment and confidence that a tattoo displays. I also like the ability of a tattoo to tell the world you're making a fearless statement about who you are and what you stand for. The biggest problem I had was that I had absolutely no clue what design I would want permanently on my body. So many standard designs seemed trite or impersonal. When I thought about it honestly, I was so afraid to commit. There are many important things in my life, but I would never get them drawn on my body. I would love to get my wife done as a pinup model, but she would never let that happen. Maybe a portrait of my young kids would be good, but they're growing up too fast, and tattoos of children always look a little creepy if we're gonna be honest. So I was stumped. As I found myself at home during the early phases of the pandemic, I was staring more and more at the art that hung on my walls. There were several etchings that were created by my great-grandfather that had always caught my eye. There was one in particular of a circus act that I loved. There were three men on bicycles in a pyramid formation, high up on a tightrope. They're on top of each other, and then there's a fourth man perched atop the pyramid of bicyclists, even higher up in the air. The etching was titled Balance. As far as I know, it's the only etching that my great-grandfather did of people rather than architecture. So I asked my mom about great-grandfather Sam. Who was he? Why did he decide to do this etching? My mom described my great-grandfather as a man who had been through many hardships, but had come out triumphant on the other end. He had survived the pandemic of 1918. He had been through the Great Depression, and he had also witnessed two of his children die shortly after childbirth. My mom, though, also described him as exceptionally jovial and kind. He was also very calm and even-keeled. And these were traits that I saw that he had passed down to my grandmother. He obviously had a love for creating art, but he also, what I didn't know is that he had exhibited them at competitions and actually sold them commercially. My mom sent me a few pictures of him, and in them, he stood confident yet relaxed at his etching press, but he was clearly very proud of his press and his tools and his craft. So I was very inspired by Sam's story. He'd been through a lot, but he had kept his creative spirit alive. And rather than let the weight of the world weigh him down, I had decided that Sam had wanted to press forward and pass down a message of balance to future generations. This message really resonated with me. The pandemic had thrown me and my whole life for a loop. My wife and I had our second child at the beginning of the pandemic. And while we love our kids, the lack of childcare, as well as all the stress of the pandemic, had really worn us down. I was also falling out of love with an intense job that was ramping up. So I saw my great-grandfather Sam as reaching through the generations to tell me, go for it, find your balance. So I finally made a booking with an artist who specializes in fine line black tattoo. I decided to get the tattoo above my left knee, which was often shaky from an ACL injury that I'd sustained in my early 20s. When I went in for the morning appointment, I brought in a picture of great-grandpa Sam, and I chatted about his story with the tattoo artist, Emma. I felt like he was right there with me. When it was done, I showed off the results to my family. Now, I'm Jewish, so that usually makes tattoos taboo, but my mom and her sisters fawned over it, and they even jokingly considered maybe getting one of their own. As for me, I was proud of all the thought that I had put into my first tattoo and its design. I felt like it was specially crafted by a guiding ancestor who I related to very strongly. And every day it serves as a reminder to seek balance in my life above all else.
So, I was in the 4th grade, as we all were at one time, and I was getting ready for the yearly grade school science fair. Now, I'm sure we've all done science fairs, or at least a great many of us, and it can be a stressful time for kids, getting the info, putting together that giant board, it can be tedious. Now, at that age, I wanted to win. Now, what kid doesn't like to win? And this was my 3rd year being in a grade school science fair. My first time, in 2nd grade, I actually designed my own periscope. I thought I would win. I didn't. The next year, in 3rd grade, I was trying to grow a snowflake in a bottle. It looked easy on the website, but we used up 2 whole blocks of dry ice before I even got a small crystal. Still, I thought I would win. I didn't. But this time, I thought I picked again what looked like would be a winner. Egg in a bottle. It seemed impossible and messy, like how are you going to get an egg into a bottle without cracking it? Still, it was science. And I got the teacher's okay to proceed. So I gathered the online materials. Now, first off, you had to find a project that you thought you'd be invested in, which was this. And there are thousands of those. So this was the best that I could do. And at some point during the planning process, I thought I would add another variable that was suggested in the website's description. And that would be adding in elevation. It was convenient because at the time we were scheduled to visit a ski resort in the Sierra Nevadas called Mammoth Lakes. And so I thought we could run the experiment at a difference of 7,800 feet. And in the whole process, my parents got involved, specifically Dad, he got kind of excited. You know, he's really into data and precision, and he wanted to volunteer to be the timer for each of the 2 trials. And he's the kind of guy who looks at the newspaper every day to find the highest and lowest temperatures in the state, which is, I don't know why he does that. Anyway, first trial finally came. We did the first egg experiment at Mammoth Lakes. And as I was only 10 or 11, my safety conscious parents took charge of boiling the eggs because they were hard-boiled eggs and pouring hot water into a Snapple bottle. With my dad acting as timer, I placed the egg on the mouth of the bottle, waited for a moment, and then the egg moved slowly and then quickly right into the bottle. Success! And then repetition. We came back to sea level and we did it again. Success! And as the due date drew near, there were some tedious bits that I had to finish off. And it required a couple of steps. It began with graphs and charts, and I had to fuss with a report. Meanwhile, my parents did most of the math because, again, 10, 11 years old, you know, you're not exactly the best at doing all sorts of math. Fortunately, the data made sense, supported my hypothesis that I had made up in 4th grade words. And we moved on to the final step, putting the project together on that display board. It's funny because my mom had actually bought a display board with the inside being yellow, like an egg yolk. So my, helpful parents dragged out the paper cutter. Again, they did most of the work. And then the mounting spray to place the papers onto the board. And make suggestions, more suggestions, yada, 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 yada. And we eventually got it done. I went to bed late, just like I did the night before any big project. School came the next day, as school usually does. And all the display boards were given out. They were displaced. They were placed up on tables in the hallways for the judges to look at. Later on in the day, the announcements were made on who won. So, did I win? No. No, I did not win. In fact, it would be another 2 years before I actually won. So you may be asking yourself, after all the anxiety and preparation years later, what's the point of telling the story? Well, it's basically nostalgia, because after all these years, after say 7 years worth of science fair projects, my parents, with all the great nostalgia that they have, still can't bring themselves to throw away the boards. Now, I don't plan on being a professional scientist, but I learned that I could complete, kind of with parent intervention, a project. And instead of someone telling me about how science can be cool, I got to experience it myself. Thank you.
So, let's talk about family. Everyone knows that in families there are mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, grandpas, and grandmas. But in my family, I have something different. I have gunkles. And in order to understand what they are, I have to talk about my family a bit more. I have two wonderful grandmas on my mom's side. That that means my grandma is married to another woman. They have lived in San Francisco for many years, and I'm pretty sure it's more than 40 years that they've lived in the LGBTQ community in San Francisco. They have protested for LGBTQ rights, and they were also gay square dancers. And that's where my story begins. While my grandmas were square dancing, they met a nice couple, Ari and Barry, and became really close friends with them. Ari and Barry were around for our family holidays, events, and taking cruises with my grandmas. I've known them since the day I was born. Literally. They were at the hospital, on the fifth floor, in the delivery room, until they couldn't handle it more. Until they couldn't handle it anymore. From what I've heard, the room was really crowded with my other family members from San Francisco. I don't see them as often anymore now because they moved to farmland with cats and chickens. My next gunkle is Richard Rockwell. He sadly passed away in January 2020 at the age of 90. He was so special to our family that he even had his own nickname, Tio Ricardo. He also spent family holidays, went on trips and events with our family. What makes him a gunkle to me is that he gave me my first haircut and kept cutting it until I was 7 years old. He also took me to Giants games and his favorite restaurant, Connecticut Yankee, in San Francisco. At his 80th birthday party, I was the only kid there, and I was able to greet everyone as they came in and also blow out his candles. So, what's a gunkle? If you can't already tell, they are my gay uncles. They are really close to my family, and we love them dearly. And I know gunkles are a strange word, but they mean everything to me. That's it.
I just want to say that the title of my story, it is called The Secret Tattoo. I used to be this kind of girl that always followed the rule. You know, do what your parents said so you will never be in trouble. I grew up in this Mexican traditional family, and since you're very little, they tell you that something that you should never do is disappoint your parents. When I grew up, I have this boyfriend that it was very nice and following the rules kind of guy. But one day he decided that he wanted to get a tattoo. And for our culture, that was a big deal. Maybe for you and I right now, that's something normal, but for us, stereotypes. They will think that a bad guy will have a tattoo. At the beginning, I told him, I don't think this is a good idea. But he just got the tattoo, and then I was okay with that. But suddenly, he started this obsession with tattoos. He started getting a second one, a third one, and then he has his right arm full of tattoos, all the way to his hand. I couldn't believe it. My parents, of course, at the beginning, they didn't like it, but later on they were okay with that. But one day I had this great idea. I actually wanted to get my very first tattoo. Of course, it was without my parents' permission. I talked with my boyfriend about it, and he actually thought it was a great idea. So he helped me to do the appointment, and I actually did my own design of my tattoo. I wanted something very special and meaningful for my very first tattoo. So the day I was there, I went into this tattoo shop with my boyfriend. I was totally nervous. And the first thing I see is the face of this guy full of tattoos. I was very impressed. And then after that, I noticed the buzzing sound of the tattoo gun machine. It was like when you go inside to the dentist office and you can handle that sound. Anyways, I was already there. I was very nervous. My boyfriend was talking with this guy about the size of my tattoo, what was the kind of tattoo I wanted, and where I wanted. I actually decided I wanted my tattoo on my ankle. It was the right place to hide my tattoo and had a very small tattoo over there so my parents will never notice. And then I was there, laying down in this kind of beds they have, and I was kind of on my side, and the guy was about to start doing my tattoo. And at that moment, it was when I realized I was actually very scared of blood. I had a record of passing out while going to the doctor getting blood tests. It was a moment where I was super nervous. But then my boyfriend just hold my hand and I was okay. The guy didn't actually take too long, and just in a blink of my eyes, I was already in the car with my ankle wrapped of plastic paper on my way home. I couldn't believe I did it. I got my very first tattoo. My boyfriend just dropped me off on my house. I ran inside my house so no one could see me. The first thing I did, of course, it was to tell this big secret to my best friends. I called my best friend and they couldn't believe, oh my God, you got a tattoo? You have to show us. Of course, I was very proud of myself and I sent them this picture. But my friends didn't answer. They didn't understand what was going on. And I'm like, guys, this is so cute, don't you think? And they told me, I don't understand what's the meaning of your tattoo. And that's when the big problem happened. I looked very close and I realized my tattoo had a mistake. I was freaking out. My very first tattoo with a mistake. Of course, I called my boyfriend and I told him everything about. I cannot blame him, but of course, it was my fault too. We didn't really pay attention about what's going on as I was so nervous while being in at the tattoo shop and the guy committed a mistake. But of course, he had everything under control and he told me to wait 2 more weeks so we can go and fix it. During those 2 weeks, I hide my tattoo from my parents all the time, always wearing pins, always covering with socks so no one could notice. Then we went to this tattoo shop again, and after 2 sessions, it was perfect, just the tattoo I wanted. But then I had to keep hiding this from my parents. So the summer came, it was so hot, and I couldn't be wearing pants and socks all the time. So I kind of gave up. I kind of relaxed a little bit, and one day I was wearing my shorts in a very warm day, and I just went fast to the kitchen so no one can see me. But my dad was already there. He was just drinking his coffee, and I was like, he's not gonna notice. It's just on my uncle. He's not gonna see it. So I just went and grabbed something very quick to the fridge, and my dad just said, Joanna, what do you have over there? I was like, oh no, I can't believe he just noticed. Oh, I just have a drink. Do you want some? No. What you have over there on your ankle? I was, oh, I had to act very normal. So I just said, oh, it's just a tattoo, Dad. As like it was something very cool. He was like, what did you say? I said, oh, it's just a tattoo. And he asked me, is this a real tattoo? I said, yes, it is a real tattoo. So he asked me, can you come? Let me look at it. So I went there and he looked very close to it and he realized I had a real tattoo. He looked at the tattoo and then looked at me, and I said, "Dad, do you know what's the meaning of that?" He looked at the tattoo again and smiled, and he realized I had a very special tattoo with a special meaning of my family. He just said, "This actually very cute." He gave me a hug, and he realized that's not something that bad. Now, 6 years after, my sister is all a grown-up woman, and she decided to make the same tattoo as has a familiar meaning. Wow, that was so special. Thank you so much, everyone, for bringing these great boat stories, and thank you, Renee, for presenting as well. I hope you enjoy mine. It was so nice to see it again and just remember that special memory. But now, let me introduce you to our next segment that is called Channel Surfing. This section will contain great but unrelated content from Rene Francisco, Mo, Jessica, Elias, and Renee Casiano. It will demonstrate the versatility of our students who have done performance for sports, children's shows, animations, and commercials. I hope you enjoy it.
With a ranger's hat and shovel and a pair of dungarees, you will find him in the forest, always sniffing at the breeze. In 1952, Steve Nelson and Jack Rollins wrote the popular anthem that would launch a continuous debate about his name, but nonetheless, it was a successful campaign that is still in use in our modern times. It was a beautiful day in the Capitan Mountains of New Mexico when smoke was reported to the nearest ranger station. The wildfire started to rage and grow and spread quickly as the strong wind kept feeding the flames. It took a couple of crews of forest rangers from New Mexico, Texas, and even the New Mexico State and Game Department to get the blaze under control. While crews were fighting the inferno, reports of a motherless toddler near the fire line were coming in, and it didn't look like his mother was coming back for him. About 30 firefighters were caught directly in the firestorm's path. The only way they managed to survive was by laying face down on a nearby rock slide area as the blaze passed them over in an hour's time. The young babe wasn't far away, but he wasn't faring as well as the firefighters. He managed to shimmy up a tree that had taken a significant amount of damage. The tree became completely charred. The youngster was badly burned on his feet and his legs. Luckily, the fire crew found him and agreed to help him in Santa Fe, where they could treat his wounds. Pretty soon, news about the brave youth spread around New Mexico almost as quickly as the wildfire had, and the United Press and Associated Press broadcasted his story across the nation, and many people were anxious to hear about his recovery. During his recuperation, he was on his way to Washington, D.C. to serve as an example of why conservation and prevention are so important. In D.C., he proved to be so popular and iconic to the public that he received so many gifts and letters that they had to give him his own zip code. He remained in Washington, D.C. until his death in 1976, when he was returned to his home in New Mexico to be buried at the Smoky Bear Historical Park in Capitan, New Mexico, where people stop and pay attention when he tells them to beware, because everybody knows that he's the fire prevention bear.
Inch by Inch, Leo Leone. One day, a hungry robin saw an inchworm, green as an emerald, sitting on a twig. He was about to gobble him up. inchworm. I am useful. I measure things. Is that so? Said the robin. Then measure my tail. That's easy, said the inchworm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches. Just think, said the robin. My tail is 5 inches long. And with the inchworm, he flew to where the other birds needed to be measured. The inchworm measured the neck of the flamingo. He measured the toucan's beak, the legs of the heron, the tail of the pheasant, and the whole hummingbird. One morning, the nightingale met the inchworm. Measure my song, said the nightingale. But how can I do that? Said the inchworm. I measure things, not songs. Measure my song, I'll eat you for breakfast, said the nightingale. Then the inchworm had an idea. I'll try, he said. Go ahead and sing. The nightingale sang, and the inchworm measured away. He measured and measured, inch by inch, until he inched out of sight. The end.
The rhythmic beating of the drums, the tingling of rain sticks, and that mouth-watering aroma of chimichangas. See, yes, it's fiesta time again at Lincoln Park. So bring the kids, your in-laws, los abuelos, the whole neighborhood, and join the fun at this sabroso and exotic celebration of Central, South American, and African culture. Taste foods from kitchens around the world and dance to music like salsa, cumbia, reggae, and much, much more. It doesn't get any better than this. So why don't you come on down this weekend to Lincoln Park and join the fiesta. We hope to see you there. Te esperamos.
Here we are at the top of the 10th. Andrew Knapp coming in as a catcher. He will be a defensive replacement for Ben Gamble, because Ben Gamble was the pinch hitter for the previous catcher, Roberto Perez. They'll have Jorge Alfaro as the automatic runner on second base in extra innings. Alfaro was the batter who got the last out at the top of the ninth for the Padres, and now up to the plate will be the top San Diego Padres prospect, C.J. Abrams. C.J. Abrams in his debut season, not the best stats so far, but that is to be expected for most rookies. Seems like a lot of top prospects have somewhat struggled so far in the major leagues so far. And now the relief pitcher for the Pirates, Chris Stratton. He pitched in the top of the ninth for the Pirates, and now he's in for the top of the 10th. And here's a swing and a miss. Strike one for Chris Stratton. Not the best velocity in the major leagues, but he makes batters swing and miss. And that one was a good pitch high in the zone. C.J. Abrams just swung and missed at that one. Not a good pitch to swing at. And here's the 0-1 bunt attempt, and that one was popped, but not very far. And there's an out. So Brian Hayes has a good arm, and despite C.J. Abrams' speed, he is thrown out. And that'll move Jorge Alfaro to third. A good bunt from C.J. Abrams, despite the bad pitch location for him. And that'll advance Jorge Alfaro to third. It seemed like C.J. Abrams kind of wanted to bunt for a hit, get more than one person aboard, but Brian Hayes was way more than ready for it. And at the very least, C.J. Abrams gets a sacrifice bunt.
Okay, welcome back to the Delicate Spin. I'm Polyester Cotton Blend, and today we are speaking with Dawn Burgundy. Before we went to break, we were trying to get the truth about your relationship with Myrtle Monster. Are the rumors true? I mean, we've all seen the paparazzi pictures in the magazines at the checkout stands. There's gotta be something going on between you two.
Look, just because Murder Bear took a few Polaroids of us on a nude beach making out does not mean anything is happening between us. We are just friends.
Right. Well, since you mentioned Murder Bear, whatever happened to them?
Oh, well, filming on Nothing Unusual wasn't easy for him either. 9 hours in the makeup chair. He went back to community college to get a broadcasting degree. I guess decided to apply the cutting skills to the editing room floor.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Well, congratulations to Murder Bear. I'm all for higher education.
Excuse me. Ooh, little fella. Hello. Don't be rude. Say hi. His son Bingo, Nemo, was taken to, Sydney. Yes, and it's really, really important that we get there as fast as we can. So can you help us out? Come on, little fella. Come on. Big fella. Oh, okay, whale. Maybe he only speaks whale. Wow, 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 wow. Cow, wow, 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 wow. Well, I'm just a fish, a swimmy, swimmy fish. Maybe a different dialect. Maybe I should try humpback. Maybe a little louder, huh? Too much orca. Doesn't it sound a little orca-ish? Don't worry. Whales don't eat clownfish, they eat krill. Oh, look, krill.
Wow, the channel surfing presented not just our skills, but also our passions. Thank you for presenting them to us, Joanna. Last but not least, we have a series of public service announcements. We as students know that CCSF is important to our lives, either to progress in our goals or to enrich ourselves through the education the college provides. However, the college is facing issues with keeping courses, and we think that the college has not put in the effort to provide the best service for us students, as do our presenters of these PSAs. I hope that you all pay close attention, not just to our creative process, but to understand the message we are sending to City College.
City College. Hi, my name is Elodie. Next to City College.
City College, PSA, take one.
Hi, my name is Elodie. I'm positive about City College. To return to school, how City College helped me out. To focus my energies on. Hello, my name is Elodie. Because of City College, return to school after 21. Hi, my name is Elodie Maffrey, and I am a ST student at City College of San Francisco. I have been able to return to school after a 25-year break, probably believing I would never go back. But City College has opened the doors to helping me grow my skills and to actually give me thoughts of the future.
Take one.
Hi, my name is Elodie Maffrey, and I am currently a BCST certificate convergent media student at City College of San Francisco. City College has allowed me to return to school after basically never thinking I would go back and being on disability. I never thought that there might be even a future for me until I went back to City College. Being that I went back, I also got a couple friends of mine to return to school. And so cutting the classes and cutting any kind of art and media classes is really not the way to go.
City College, PSA, check one.
My name is Jose Ramos. I'm a student in the Broadcast Electronic Media Arts Department. The cuts in faculty and classes will prevent me from taking classes I like and which I need to complete a certificate. Low-income students need an affordable college where we can obtain training for jobs that pay a living wage. The cuts will severely limit opportunities for immigrants whose first language is not English. Stop downsizing CCSF.
My name is Gina Vitanza, and I am a BIMA student at CCSF. Taking classes at CCSF helped me gain the confidence to re-enter the job market after 2 years. This lack of funding is really hurting our teachers and in turn is hurting us as well. Do you really want to do this to us?
My name is Molkana Madden, and my classes are being cut. Higher education should belong to everyone, not just those born into privilege.
My name is Faith Peterson Bailey, and the fall cuts will prevent me from completing my degree and transferring to a 4-year college.
Hi, my name is Gabby, and my classes are being cut next semester. Please help us at CCSF to keep these classes by filling out petitions to save these classes.
Thank you, Renee, for presenting us with such powerful material from our BIMA students. And thank you to our audience for watching our student showcase for BCST115 announcing a performance. We hope we've entertained and inspired you. Tell your friends and family to support us at CCSF to keep the magic alive. Thank you.